Shalom YouTube. We are in Matthew 18 today. We left off naturally at Matthew 17 last week. And we're coming to, we see here at the end of 17, it's time to pay the taxes. Kepha, Peter, goes fishing, pulls up a fish, and there's a coin in his mouth. That's pretty cool. That's where we left off. And then we get into 18 here. 18 and 19 are less of a cohesive narrative and more, it seems like, a series of relevant excerpts that are kind of stuck together to make a little bit of a patchwork quilt of a narrative here to further our understanding of Messiah. That's my opinion. There are people who agree with that opinion and people who don't. The long and short is, it doesn't matter. It's just contextually here. If you look at the story here, what happens as the flow of the story here, it gets a little bit more sound bitey and a little bit less flowing narrative, but that's okay. We are in Matthew 18, Mattiyahu 18, 1-8, and I'm reading out of the scriptures. If you're wondering why I'm reading out of the scriptures and not the KJV or the NKJV or the NIV or the whatever else, I have a video on it. YouTube search bar, Bear Independent Bible, that explains all of it. If you're wondering where to get the scriptures, it's in that as well. It looks like this: www.isrindiasierra-romeo-messianic.org. I make zero money telling you that. That's just where I get this from, and I get so many emails each week wanting to know, how do I get a copy? That's how you get a copy. Okay, Matthew 18. At that time, this is right after we get this fish with the coin in its mouth. At that time, the taught ones, the disciples, came to Yeshua, saying, "Who then is the greatest in the reign of heavens?" And Yeshua called a little child to him, set him in their midst, and said, "Truly, I say to you, unless you turn and become as little children, you shall by no means enter into the reign of heavens. Whoever then humbles himself as this little child is the greatest in the reign of heavens. And whoever receives one little child like this in my name receives me. But whoever causes one of these little ones who believe in me to stumble, it is better for him that a millstone be hung around his neck and that he be drowned in the depths of the sea. Woe to the world because of stumbling blocks. For it is necessary that stumbling blocks come, but woe to that man by whom the stumbling block comes. And if your hand or foot causes you to stumble, cut it off and throw it away from you. It is better for you to enter into life lame or crippled, rather than having 2 hands or 2 feet to be thrown into the everlasting fire." Now, first of all, let's back up just a hair here. And remember, Brother T, we're on this level. We're not like this or like this. We're eye to eye. I have been continuously mindful, even down to the very position of the camera. I don't want you looking up at me. I don't want to be looking down at you, or vice versa. Just eye level. We're here on the eye level, same level. I'm not a pastor. I don't know, right? I'm just here. I have the conviction to read this word, to read it every day for myself, and then to share it with you a couple of times a week here on YouTube. To that end, and this is not a sales pitch, if you want to stay informed of what's going on, because we are falling out of favor with the YouTube algorithm and channels are being deleted like that, bearindependent.com. There's a newsletter there you can sign up for, and there's a contact page. You can just send an email saying, "Hey, I want to be on the newsletter." Then that way, if we have to move platforms, I'll be able to let you know where we're at. Now, there's been a lot of hay made here by pastors, of which I am not one, about the be as little children. There is so much commentary throughout Christendom about this. What could it possibly mean? Well, like many things, hi babe, like many things in religion, we have the parable, and then immediately after the parable, we have the explanation. But because we have soundbite theology these days, so many people run around asking the question, well, what could it possibly mean to be as like little children when Messiah says, be like a child? Well, he literally tells us in the next verse, whoever then humbles himself as this little child is the greatest in the reign of heavens. To be humble like a child, not to presume. There's the explanation. It's literally one verse away. He says, as his wife is laying on the kitchen floor with a rifle about to snipe probably a squirrel. Squirrel, I'm guessing? Yeah, a squirrel. They eat our chicken food. She's literally laying on the kitchen floor with her 1,400 feet per second pneumatic air rifle, scoped, 4 power, scoped, fixed power, half out the window, laying in the semi-prone position, waiting for a good shot on a squirrel. This is what you get when you get Bible readings around here. And no, we don't eat them. They eat our chicken food, and we're not cool with that. So, and it's not possible to overhunt rodents, and squirrels are rodents. Moving on. Okay. Whoever humbles himself and whoever receives one little child like this in my name receives me. That's the context. So pastors can continue to make, and priests and messianic rabbis and whoever else, bishops, can make all the hay they want to out of that. The explanation there is one verse away. Humble yourself. Humble yourself to Messiah. Humble yourself to the Father. Okay. Then he goes on to say that if you are not good to these little children and cause them to stumble, it would be better to have a millstone, which is a giant rock used for milling, grain, to have that tied around your neck and be thrown in the ocean. That would be better for you than to cause one of these children to stumble. And we're reminded repeatedly by Messiah, the widow and the orphan, the widow and the orphan. Who's our primary responsibility outside of our families? The widow and the orphan. Okay. And if your hand or foot causes you to stumble, this is 18:8, cut it off and throw it away from you. It is better for you to enter into life lame or crippled rather than having 2 hands or 2 feet to be thrown into the everlasting fire. To enter into life. That's a very interesting phrase. We know that when we believe on Messiah's name, when we accept the atoning sacrifice of his blood, we are made new. And I think you really enter into life at that point. So as we step forward into that, if there are these stumbling blocks that are causing you to sin, and what is sin? 1 John 3:4, transgression of the law. Sin is transgression of the law. Not T's opinion, John's opinion. You might have heard of him. And there's the shot, ladies and gentlemen. So if you have these stumbling blocks as you're remade, as you're born new, get rid of it. And an effective way to do that is to lay it at the foot of the cross. Pray over it. Just give it to the Father. Say, hey, this isn't mine. I don't know I have this, but I don't want it anymore. This isn't mine, so I'm giving it to you. Literally give it away. Cover it with the blood of Messiah in prayer. Next, just give it away. You're an interesting woman, you know that? Okay. And if your eye causes you to stumble, pluck it out and throw it away from you. It is better for you to enter into life with 1 eye rather than having 2 eyes and be thrown into the fire of Gehenna, pits of hell. See that you do not despise one of these little ones. For I say to you that in the heavens their messengers always see the face of my Father who is in the heavens. So anything you do to these children, Their angels, their messengers, report directly to the Most High. So make sure that's a pretty firm instruction there. That has very high ramifications. For the Son of Adam has come to save what was lost. What do you think? If a man has 100 sheep and one of them goes astray, would he not leave the 99 on the mountains, going to seek the one that is straying? And if he should find it, truly, I say to you, he rejoices more over that sheep than over the 99 that did not go astray. Thus, it is not the desire of your Father who is in heavens that one of these little ones should be lost. Now listen, I own sheep. If I had 100 sheep and one of those dum-dums ran away, I am probably not a good shepherd in that regard, because I wouldn't be caring too much. Sheep are not the most wise animals, and they actually have pretty poor eyesight, and they whine. Meh, meh. Just go be me. And if he should find it, truly I say to you, he rejoices more over that sheep than over the 99 that did not go astray. Thus it is not the desire of your Father who is in the heavens that one of these little ones should be lost. And if your brother sins against you, go and convict him between you and him alone. If he hears you, you have gained your brother. But if he does not hear, take with you one or two more, by the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses every word might be established. Now, this is Deuteronomy 19:15. So, for everybody who has ever claimed that the law has been nailed to the cross and done away with, once again, I would ask, why then does Messiah repeatedly teach and preach the law? This is Deuteronomy 19:15. And if he refuses to hear them, say it to the assembly. And if he refuses to hear even the assembly, let him be to you like the nations and a tax collector. Remove yourself from him. Truly I say to you, whatever you bind on earth shall be having been bound in the heaven, and whatever you loosen on earth shall be having been loosened in heaven. Again, this chapter and the next are much more soundbitey than they are flowing narrative. They're blockish. So right there, 18. Truly I say to you, whatever you bind on earth shall be having been bound in heaven, and whatever you loosen on earth shall be having been loosened in heaven. Flip back just a couple of pages to Matthew 16:19. Like it's literally one page in my Bible. Here's Yeshua Messiah talking to Kepha, Peter. And I shall give you the keys of the reign of the heavens, and whatever you bind on earth shall be having been bound in the heavens, and whatever you loosen on earth shall be having been loosened in the heavens. Then he warned his taught ones that they should say to no one that he is Yeshua the Messiah. What does that mean? There's, again, tons of interpretation over this. You could just Google Matthew 18:18 and read until your eyeballs fall out of your face. I mean, there's tons of interpretation and theories from some people who are way smarter and way more versed in this stuff than I am. But what I get out of this is this concept that Peter, Petra, the rock on which I build my church. I give to you all authority in heaven and earth. Whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in the heavens, and so forth and so on. Well, here a page later, he's talking to all of his disciples, all of his taught ones, and he tells them the very same thing. So I think that it shows that they're much more on a level playing field than this concept of, well, Peter was the guy. And especially as you read further on, we find out that, Paul was very much so the guy as well. And then, like James is probably my favorite, the guy. And then John wasn't a slacker either, now was he, right? And so forth and so on. So I think that that verse puts them much more on an even playing field. And B, the idea here is that as we move on, 18:19, again I say to you that if two of you agree on earth concerning any matter that they ask, it shall be done for them by my Father in the heavens. Okay, this is about wielding authority. This is about the authority that we can claim through Yeshua Messiah, through Jesus the Christ, who is given to us through him by the Father, by Yahweh. The Alpha and the Omega, Adonai, El Shaddai, Hashem, the Creator. This is what I see here. Wield this authority. This is Messiah giving explicit instruction and permission to them. Permission. Wield this authority. For where 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name, there I am in their midst. Which is a great way to remember. Again, soundbitey. Well, we don't really go to a church. We just go to a home assembly. That's church. Well, we don't really go to church. We just read Bible on Tuesday with some friends. That's church. Now, forsake not the gathering together, but also understand that, we've had church in our backyard. We have church at this very table I'm sitting at. We've had church in our living room. We've had church in the wilderness. I've had church in hotel rooms. We've had church everywhere. We're having church right now on the internet. Where 2 or more are gathered in my name, there I am in their midst. Okay, cool. And so the profound teaching here is that the church is not the building. The church is us. The church is the bride waiting for the bridegroom to return. And the bride is not the dress that she's wearing. She is the human inside of the dress that she's wearing. The church is not the building, it's the people inside of it. Whether they're in a building, or they're in a pavilion at a state park, or they're in a hotel room, or a conference room, or in their living room, or on the internet, or in a garage, or a carport, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. What matters, the bride is not her dress. The bride is the bride. What she wears, what's enveloping her, doesn't matter. Okay. Then Peter came to him and said, Master, how often shall my brother sin against? Again, sound bites. There's no flowing narrative here. Then Peter said, well, contextually, because I'm a context guy, my number 1 character trait is action. My number 2 is context. And my number 3 is self-assurance, for everybody who is wondering, meaning that I don't really need anybody else's approval as long as I have my own approval. And just a little insight on me, I find when I'm needing other people's approval, it's because I'm probably doing something that I shouldn't be doing, or I'm doing something that I should be doing the wrong way. Then I go looking for other people's approval, and it's like, right, that's a problem. Okay. Strengths Finder 2.0. Strengths Finder 2.0. It's a book. Look it up. Quick personality test online. It'll give you your top 5, your top 10 character traits. Yeah. Action, context, self-assurance. That's me. And then we get into the technical things. Where the heck were we? Oh, that's right here. We were at 18:21. Okay. Then Kepha came to him and said, Master, how often shall my brother sin against me and I forgive him? Up to 7 times? ? Yeshua said to him, I do not say to you up to 7 times, but up to 77 times. 70 times 7. I'm sorry. So that'd be 490 times. But up to 70 times 7. So 490 times is the answer. At 491, we have issues. But up until that point, no problem. Yeshua said to him, I do not say to you up to 7 times, but up to 70 times 7. Because of this, the reign of the heavens is like a certain man. This is the parable of the unforgiving servant, or the something else servant. It's got a couple names, unforgiving and something. Oh, I don't remember. Sovereign who wished to settle. Because of this, the reign of heavens is like a certain man, a sovereign, a king, who wished to settle accounts with his servants. And when he had begun to settle, one was brought to him who owed him 100,000 talents. That's a lot of money. But as he was unable to pay, his master commanded that he be sold with his wife and children and all that he had, and payment to be made. Then the servant fell down before him, saying, Master, have patience with me, and I shall pay you all. And the master of that servant was moved with compassion, released him, and forgave him the debt. So this guy was in debt. He came to the king. The king said, good news, you can't pay? We'll just sell you off. And this guy, humbled himself in front of the king and said, mercy, mercy, please don't do that. And the king said, okay, your debt is forgiven. And that servant went out and found one of his fellow servants who owed him 100 denarii, which is like a small coin compared to a talent. So instead of 10,000 talents, which is like, we'll just say it's like $1 million, okay? I'll just put a number on it. He finds this guy that owes him $100. So he just got his debt for $1 million relieved, and now he sees this guy that owes him $100. And he laid hands on him and took him by the throat, saying, pay me what you owe. Then his fellow servant fell down at his feet and begged him, saying, have patience with me, and I shall pay you all. So this guy just got off the hook for $1 million, and now he's shaking down a guy for $100. But he would not, and went and threw him into prison till he should pay the debt. And when his fellow servants saw what had been done, they were deeply grieved, and came and reported to their master all that had taken place. Then his master called to him and said, wicked servant, I forgave you all the debt, seeing you begged me. Should you not have also compassion on your fellow servant, as I also had compassion on you? And his master was wroth, that means PO'd, and delivered him to the torturers until he should pay all that was due to him. So also this is Messiah speaking, so also my heavenly Father shall do to each of you from his heart, shall do to you, if each of you from his heart does not forgive his brother his trespasses. This is yet another illustration of the golden rule. Treat people as you'd like to be treated. So if you're shown mercy, give mercy. Okay? That's, in a nutshell, to me, the whole parable here. And there's an inequity here. Not iniquity, which is lawlessness, although there is that, but inequity. This is not an equitable situation. The guy was just forgiven $1 million worth of debt, and he's shaking down a guy and grabbing him by the throat for $100. It's not good, right? And that's what made the king, the sovereign, wroth. That's what peed him. Oh man, he was not happy about it. And this is the teaching of Messiah. That instruction right there is precisely how our Father, the Heavenly Father, would respond to us if we were to do such a thing to our brothers. Meaning that if the Father is overlooking major sin on our behalf, right, should we not be overlooking minor sin on behalf of our brothers? Like, who are we to judge, man? Grace and mercy, grace and mercy. I gotta scratch my back right here. Oh, yes. Oh, excuse me, just one moment. Okay. Anyway, that's the end of chapter 18, so that's okay. We can hydrate now. Come on, canteen. All right. And then chapter 19 here. Still kind of disjointed narrative, soundbite-ish. And it came to be, when Yeshua had ended these words, that he left Galilee and came to the borders of Judah beyond the Jordan. Yehuda beyond the Yarden. Judah beyond the Jordan. And large crowds followed him, and he healed them there. And the Pharisees came to him, trying him, being a pain in his side, saying to him, is it right for a man to put away his wife for every reason? Which we've already addressed here, that by this point, the Pharisees, who were, you want to talk about legalistic, these guys made so many of their own rules that Messiah railed against them constantly for adulterating his Father's perfect law. So It's funny when people come at me and they're like, you're just being legalistic because you're not taking advantage of the grace of Messiah. Shall we sin all the more so that grace may abound? No, God forbid. Who said that? Paul, everybody's favorite New Testament guy, because most people don't understand Paul. But I digress. The legalism here is applying our own broken, flawed human ideas to how to keep the Father's perfect law. So, here come these Pharisees again, who Messiah just loved. And they say, hey man, can we put away our wife for any reason? Well, the Pharisees had gotten it down to the point where you could divorce your wife for burning your dinner. And Messiah railed against them for that. And so he, Messiah, answering them said, did you not read that he who made them at the beginning made them male and female, which is Genesis 1:27, and said, for this cause a man shall leave his father and his mother and cleave to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh, which is Genesis 2:24. So that they are no longer two, but just one flesh. Therefore, that what Elohim has joined together, let no man separate. Therefore, what Elohim has joined together, let no man separate. That has been used out of context by many a person, in my experience, speaking to the ease with which we divorce each other these days. And we do divorce each other with ease these days. Here's the thing. The context here is that Messiah is telling these guys, what the Father has joined together under the guise of male and female come together to leave their father and their mother and become one flesh. That, #GoTeam, that perfect and wonderful plan for us should not be separated by these men. Oh, you burnt my dinner, woman, you're divorced. Okay, because that was literally a thing back in the day. So that they are no longer two but one flesh. Therefore, what Elohim has joined together, let no man separate. And they said to him, why then did Moshe command to give a certificate of divorce, which is Deuteronomy 24:1, and to put her away? And Messiah said, because of the hardness of your hearts, Moshe allowed you to put away your wives, but from the beginning it was not so. Meaning, it was not the original intent of the Father, but because we as human beings suck, there was an allowance for divorce. And I say to you, whoever puts away his wife except on the ground of whoring and marries another commits adultery. So now Messiah is expanding on this, going, here was the context with which this divorce was allowed. Whoring, adultery, not you burnt my dinner, not I don't like the clothes that you picked out for me today, not, you know what, I decided I don't like you anymore. Right? Because this was literally a thing that the Pharisees were not just making okay with their doctrine and dogmas of man, that they were pushing. Oh yeah, silly woman burnt your dinner, divorce her, get another one. It's like, well, you just wrecked that person's life because you're being spiteful and selfish. That's stupid. So Messiah here says, and I say to you, whoever puts away his wife except on the grounds of whoring and marries another commits adultery, and whoever marries her who has been put away commits adultery. And his taught one said to him, if such is the case of the man and his wife, it is good not to marry. Boy, okay, this portion here, and again, sound bites, 18 and 19, these two chapters. If such is the case of a man with his wife, it is good not to marry. And Messiah, and he said to them, not all receive this word, but only those to whom it has been given. For there are eunuchs who were born so from their mother's womb, and there are eunuchs who were made eunuchs by men, and there are eunuchs who have been made themselves eunuchs for the sake of the reign of heavens. He who is able to receive it, let him receive it. Okay, what does all this mean? Again, Brother T, not Pastor T. What does this mean? 1930 and, 10 through 12 here. In my reading, in my understanding, what this is saying is the apostles were like, wow, if this is what you get when you get a wife, man, maybe it's not worth it in the first place. And what Messiah is saying here is, hey, there are people who, from the time of the womb, and this is an incredible admission, right? There are people who, from the time of the womb, hey, they're eunuchs. They can't reproduce. They don't have any, they're missing some dangly parts, okay? Then there are eunuchs who were made that way by the hand of man. And this was, in a lot of cases, these were slaves that were kept. Whole nother story for another time, but you can look into the veracity, the historical accuracy of, the historicity of eunuchs. And then there are those who have done this for the sake of the heavens. This is celibacy, okay? And I believe what Messiah is saying here is, if you are not in marriage, be celibate. I believe that's what he's saying here. Celibacy if you can't handle marriage, one or the other. I could be wrong. I don't know, but that's what I'm getting out of this. Not, hey guys, let's all get a sharp knife and take our dangly bits off, because that would be the way into heaven. Because there are people who interpret it that way. I don't know how, but there's a lot of things that I don't understand about how people interpret certain parts of this book. Then young children were brought to him to lay hands on them and pray, and the taught ones rebuked them. The disciples were like, yo, dude, get out of here, kids. But Yeshua said, allow the young children and do not stop them from coming to me, for of such is the reign of the heavens. And having laid hands on them, he went from there. And see, a person came and said to him, good teacher, what shall I do to have an everlasting life? And he, Yeshua, said, why do you call me good? No one is good except one, Elohim. Which right there, let's get super controversial for a minute. How many people revere Messiah and don't even make mention of the Father? I and my Father are one, he says repeatedly. No one comes to the Father but through me, he says. I come first but for the lost sheep of the house of Israel, he says. Malachi 3:6, I am the Lord Yahweh Sabaoth, I change not. We find Messiah in every chapter of this book here, of this holy text. The reverence of Yeshua over the Father. I see it repeatedly, and I don't know how to put this nicely, but I think that it's not correct. I and my Father are one. Now, none of us would be here without Messiah. The end. Right? We have a renewed covenant. Hebrews 8:8, 8:6, 8:8, 8:10. 8:6, Yeshua is the mediator. 8:8, there's a renewed covenant. 8:10, our half of the deal is that these laws, this Torah, would be written on our heart. 8:6, 8:8, 8:10, Hebrews. Right. And we owe the largest debt of gratitude possible to Yeshua for that. Why? Why did he do that? So that we could remove ourselves from the crushing weight of that sin and seek the Father's face. And when we seek the Father's face, we can begin to heal all of these woundings that we have. All the slings and arrows that we've suffered in this mortal life. We can get patched up. We can get put back on the battlefield of life so we can go win victories for the kingdom. And I think a lot of people stagnate. They plateau at love for Messiah. A love for Messiah is critical. Please understand the nuance of what I'm saying here. It is extremely important. But it is only one facet of what this life is about. Through that love for Messiah, you then start getting giftings of the Holy Spirit, the Ruach HaKodesh. You get instruction from the Father. You learn how to wield authority, as we see here in Matthew 18:18, and Matthew 16:19. We learn how to wield authority. We learn how to use the power that's vested in us through belief on Messiah. It's like we have to graduate from like that young lover stage into more of a warrior kingship stage here. And I think it does a man and potentially a woman, I don't know, I'm not a woman, but potentially a woman, harm to stay plateaued at that young lover stage for the entirety of their faith, because it gets old. The shine wears off. And then what? Well, we're saved from our sins. Why? So we can seek the Father's face. And yes, the biggest debt of gratitude possible to Messiah for that, so that we are not dead to our sin. But why? What is the point of not being dead to our sin? So we can seek the Father's face, we can get patched up, we can get repaired, and we can get back on the battlefield to do his things. Not our things, his things. Even Messiah says, hey, these aren't my commands, these are the Father's commands. If you love me, keep my commands. Whose commands? The Father's commands. I and my Father are one. This is my Son in whom I delight. Right? And the point is made over and over and over again. And here even Messiah says, Matthew 19:17, and he said to him, why do you call me good? No one is good except the one, Elohim. But if you wish to enter into life, guard the commands. Oh, check that out. And he said to him, why do you call me good? No one is good except the one, Elohim. But if you wish to enter into life, guard the commands. I'm going to take this pen right here, and I'm going to put a star next to that. Okay. And he, the young man, said, which? And Yeshua said, you shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not bear false witness. Exodus 20. Respect your father and your mother. Exodus 20. And you shall love your neighbor as yourself. Leviticus 19:18. But remember, all this was nailed to the cross and done away with, except that it wasn't, and it was taught directly by the mouth of Messiah. When literally right here, the question is, how do I have everlasting life? And to the answer is, don't call me good. The Father is good. Guard his commands and then do these things that you find in Exodus. That's literally from the mouth of Messiah. Like, you don't have to do that. It literally says so right here in his own words. And he said to him, why do you call me good? No one is good except the one, Elohim. But if you wish to enter into life, guard the commands. Which commands? You shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not bear false witness. Respect your father and your mother, and you shall love your neighbor as yourself. All of which is Torah. And the young man said to him, all these I have watched over from my youth. What do I still lack? And Yeshua said to him, if you wish to be perfect, go sell what you have and give to the poor, and you shall have treasure in heaven, and come follow me. And when the young man heard the word and went away sad, because he had many possessions. And Yeshua said to his disciples, truly I say to you that it is hard for the rich man to enter into the reign of heavens. And again I say to you, it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter into the reign of Elohim. And when his taught ones heard it, they were astonished, saying, who then is able to be saved? How are we saved? Right? And so Yeshua here is that this is an issue of pride, and this is, again, humble. Be like children's. Humble yourself, right? This guy's not humbled. He's been doing this his whole life. And Yeshua's like, good, go get rid of all your crap and come follow me. Not willing to do it. How many times have we discussed here, pick up your cross daily and willingly bear the burden of it daily. Humble yourself, right? Be as like little children. What could that possibly mean? The very next line, humble yourself. This guy here is like, how do I get saved? Humble yourself. And when his taught ones were astonished, saying, who then is able to be saved? And looking intently, Yeshua said to them, with men this is impossible, but with Elohim all is possible. Then Peter, Kepha, answered, saying to him, see, we have left all and followed you.
What then shall we have? We did these things. He's saying, look, we left everything we had, unlike this guy, and now we're following you. What do we get out of this? And Yeshua said to them, truly, I say to you, when the son of Adam, who's Messiah, sits on the throne of his esteem, you will have followed me in the rebirth. Shall also you who have followed me in the rebirth shall also sit on 12 thrones, judging the 12 tribes of Israel. And everyone who has left houses or brothers or sisters or father or mother or wife or children or lands for my name's sake shall receive 100-fold and shall inherit everlasting life. But many who are first shall be last, and the last shall be first. The first shall be last and the last shall be first is metaphorical, meaning those who in today's day and age who are high and mighty are going to be knocked down, and those who are poor in spirit, who are suffering, shall be lifted up, right? This is the restoration. This is the rebirth that Yeshua is talking about here. And this is a literal, I don't even want to say prophecy towards end times, but Messiah is referring to end times here. And truly I say to you, when the Son of Adam sits on the throne of his esteem, this is end times. John wrote about this. It's called the revelation of Yeshua Messiah. You have followed me into the rebirth. You who have followed me into the rebirth shall also sit on 12 thrones, judging the 12 tribes of Israel. And now he's saying everybody who has given up all of these things, his brother, his sister, father, mother, wife, children, lands, for my name's sake, those who believe enough to walk away from everything that they have for Messiah, they shall inherit everlasting life. Unlike this rich kid who was not willing to walk away from everything that he had to follow his Messiah. And that's the end of Matthew 19. And so, how shall we be saved? Literally from the mouth of Messiah here. How are we saved? Good teacher. Don't call me good. The only one that's good is Elohim, right? If you wish to enter into life, guard the commands, give up everything that you have, and follow me, and you will have everlasting life. That is the literal instruction from the mouth of Messiah, who most people call Jesus, and most people call him Jesus on Sunday mornings when they hear some kind of sermon of 3 different verses cobbled together to make a self-help seminar out of about 55 minutes of time. That we got to get this thing done because there's football on this afternoon. Can we get a prayer, a quick amen? Worship team's going to play one more song. Hey, we'll meet you at the door. Shake hands. Have a great week. Gotta go. Fast food spirituality. It's a nightmare. And yet, we can read directly in this word, directly from the mouth of Messiah, in the Gospels, how am I saved? Master, don't call me good. Only the Father is good. Guard his commands and follow me. Give up everything and follow me, and you will have everlasting life. The Father is the one. You guard the commands. You give up everything and follow Messiah. That's how you have everlasting life. Straight from the mouth of Messiah himself. It amazes me how many people miss that. And the reason they miss it is because they don't read their Bibles. And so I will tell you guys again, stop taking anybody else's word, including mine, for what this book says. Read it yourself. Your pastor will fail you. Your friends from Bible study will fail you. I will fail you. It's you and the Father. It's your relationship with your Creator, and you read your word and pray your prayers and get instruction from your Creator and serve your Messiah every day with your hands and your feet and your heart, doing your convictions. All I can do is encourage you guys to read this book and literally do what it says. So many people are just walking around lost, looking for direction, and here it is in clear, plain black and white. Do these things. But we'd rather look 1,000 other places than in this book. We'd rather do 100 other things than take 45 minutes to read this book together.
feel the conviction to say, do it now while you still can. Shalom.